Hi, Bo. Good morning, everybody.
Connecting.
Connecting. He's here.
Hello, Kipton.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you today?
I'm good. It's
Good.
Good Friday.
Good Friday. Happy
Yeah.
Easter. Happy Passover.
Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Happy Passover to you. How have you been in New York? Catch us up. How you doing? I miss New York so much.
Yeah, so I'm here in the heart of Chelsea, in the heart of the Gallery District on 24th Street, way over west on 11th Avenue, and you know I see cars and traffic. Some, not much, but some.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's really a ghost town. If you look out the streets, they are empty, they are deserted, which is scary, but also gratifying that people are taking stay at home seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here in LA. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been at home now for about a month, and it's been, as creatives, the two of us, I mean, it's been interesting. It's an interesting time for me, and I'm really excited to introduce everybody to Jamie Drake, who's a celebrity interior designer. The whole purpose of these Thinking of Art calls is really to not only introduce you to incredible artists, but also individuals that are passionate with art and design. And Jamie Drake is not only has done some incredible projects, he's known for color, he's an author. I mean, he's worked with some amazing individuals, which we can talk about later. But Jamie, I just wanted to, one, make sure you were doing well and to see your face and say hi. But also, also to talk a little bit about like how are you sourcing art right now, and how has your business changed as a result of COVID?
Well, our business has changed like everybody's, and we are learning to work in whole new ways. Our team is working from home, um, and in many ways, much more efficiently than I would have expected.
Hmm.
Certainly quite busy,
Hmm.
engrossed in things. Many of them are sort of crisis management related. Uh,
Sure.
you know, it's an interesting time. I miss being around work-wise samples
Yeah.
and all of our library of stones and fabrics and woods and finishes and paint finishes and things. Um, but we are muddling through. And I think when we come through it, we will be entering a world that is the new new.
Hmm.
Um, it's going to be very changed, and hopefully some things will be for the better. I hope that compassion and thoughtfulness that maybe we've all been reminded to reach out to friends we haven't spoken to in a while or those we're worried about will stay with us. And I know that one thing that one silver lining, which is that I have enjoyed a glass of wine every day at lunch. I will not be able to keep with me to be as efficient, but for now, it
Yeah.
does give a comfort.
Yeah. So, can you talk about like some of the projects, recent projects that you've been working on to give people an idea of your design style? And there are artists on here, there are designers on here, there's some gallery owners on here. So we have a really mixed bag of people. So,
Right. So
and everybody, please submit your questions, and we'll answer the questions as we're doing the live call.
At my firm, which I have, I partner with Caleb Anderson, Drake Anderson.
Yeah.
Over the last few years, we've worked on some wonderful big projects here in New York, down, say, at 56 Leonard, the great Jenga Tower, in London, in Utah. And our work is, quite varied, from mountain houses to classic 18th century townhouses and to contemporary apartments in brand new ultra chic Starchitect high rises. Um, and it's been a wonderful time. And right now things feel a little tentative.
Yeah.
Um, it's certainly going forward. Who knows where we'll end up? I think we
Yeah.
will see possibly an increase in people thinking about more projects in more isolated areas. Maybe
Hmm.
people who have a second home that's far away will look for a second home or a third home that's much
Yeah.
closer to the urban center they live in
Sure.
as a bunker in a way. We literally
Hmm.
had one former client who reached out to me and said, absolutely, they've decided they need a place in like Wyoming. And so get ready, and they're starting to fantasize about it, and then so excited. And then
You're gonna
another,
put your cowboy boots on.
right, and another talks about spending time in the house they've had for many years out on
Yeah,
Long Island. Now, with all three of their children at once, and in the past few years, that probably hasn't happened as much because their children are teens and in college.
mm-hmm.
And they realize it's time now to think to the future, to a house that's big enough that's larger,
Yeah,
and that will accommodate their children and their future spouses,
of
and
course.
big enough to accommodate future spouses and grandchildren, which are, only glimmers of light in the distance. But I do think that there will be new opportunities and work, but they may take a little while.
Well, and I think to your point, people are looking at homes outside of big cities, but also opportunities to spend more time with their friends and family in
Yes.
isolated places, safe spaces. So can you talk a little bit about, I mean, we had some comments come up here on your philanthropic efforts and your work. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Maybe first, what are some projects you're working on philanthropically right now?
Well, that's interesting. Thank you for whoever asked that question. This crisis, this pandemic, certainly has pointed out what I often say is there's no end to need, because I am involved in a lot of different organizations. I sit on the board of Parsons School of Design, and we have established a student emergency fund, which I have donated to, which is to help especially get foreign students, help them with the cost to get back home.
Amazing.
Technology to students who are working from home, and a variety of different stopgap measures. At the Alpha Workshops, we're a division of the Jewish Board, and we have established work at home that can be done. Not a lot of it can be done, but a fair amount of production people are doing from home. And then one of the organizations I most proudly sit on, the New York Community Trust, is a vast, big organization that always focuses on the real needs of people across New York City, all five
Mm-hmm.
boroughs. And we established the COVID-19 Impact and Response Fund with an initial seeding of money from a variety of different organizations, such as the Ford Foundation and the Louders and
Mm-hmm.
John Bloomberg for philanthropies with $75 million. And those funds are being dispersed very quickly
Amazing.
to organizations to really help as a stopgap measure immediately, ASAP,
So
for food.
where can an artist
Also,
go where can an artist go to apply for those grants?
well, the artists, of course, are sole employees of themselves, and they are applicable for some of the federal programs,
Of course.
like in New York City. There's New York City programs also in help. And then, if it's really at grassroots needs, food banks and things are expanding wildly and greatly and grandly under challenging situations, but seem to be keeping up pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's change gears a little bit. I think that's beautiful. If anybody else has any comments and you're just joining, please submit them and we'll go through them. One of the comments was the work that you've done with Mayor Bloomberg, I think on some of his properties and some other individuals. So if there are any key projects, I mean, I'm interested in Madonna, for example, and some of the work that you've done with her. So,
Well, we've been blessed over the years, our firm, to have a lot of very intelligent, smart, successful people that we've worked for and we've learned from.
yeah.
And from someone like Madonna, we learned about her fabulous taste and her great vision, and a client who can show you about being decisive in that way. And then for Mike, a wonderful client, well known for decades of ours, and he's a wildly influential person in my life, in that he has taught me about being decisive and being bold, and about allowing people to embrace what they do well and get on with it. And,
Yeah.
it's wonderful to learn from our clients. And those are lessons that we can take away that aren't about learning about space planning necessarily or combinations of things. Those are things we bring to the table, but that they can give us other gifts.
Sure. So I know Madonna, for example, is a big art collector, and you handhold those relationships obviously with the design aspect, but let's transition a little bit talking about the art and where do you go to source art and how has that changed because of COVID?
Well, I do have a passion for art, and we, with our projects, feel very strongly that a project really isn't finished until there's at least some art on the walls. And not all of our clients are collectors. Many are much more furnishers. And so not atypical, and I think in the interior design industry, that what we do takes a lot of time, effort, and money. And sometimes clients get to the end of the project and they're kind of exhausted. And so to get them to the next step and put the pieces in, it's wonderful if we can convince them to think about these things at the beginning, but often that's not what they want to do. So
Sure.
we try and focus them and get them excited by sharing our expertise or the expertise of our consultants like yourself.
Hmm.
And we utilize a variety of ways of going about this. I love art, and I go to
All the art fairs.
all
Yep.
the art fairs, or as many as I can get to.
You do.
As I said, I live in the heart of the gallery area in Chelsea. I'm on a block with Gagosian, with Barry Campbell, with
Lucky. It's amazing.
Jack Damon. So I get the pleasure of going into galleries, and I miss it terribly.
Yeah.
The couple of walks I've taken, I've actually taken some pictures and thought about doing a posting, looking at art through the window.
Safely through the window.
Right.
Yeah.
Online absolutely is a way we've always sourced some art, or at least a first step. So that first step now needs to become almost the primary step.
Hmm.
And I think what that robs you of to a certain extent is the experience of discovery.
Hmm.
Because I'm just not so ingrained to just like troll through endless galleries and just look at everything. There's nothing like experiencing things, whether it's art or a meal in a restaurant.
In person. Yeah.
But that
Absolutely.
will likely change. And
Hmm.
certainly for the short term, right now, the last month, I have had a few projects that need a few pieces, and I have looked online. I've gone to the galleries I'm familiar with,
Hmm.
um, and looked and sourced, but I also know that sometimes engaging in person, there's things that just aren't up on a gallery's website. So
Well, I
that
feel, yeah,
that's
and I
what
feel like for me, when designers and individuals reach out to me for art right now, they're really trusting our expert advice more so than ever. Instead of whereas in the past it was like, hey, I like this artist, go to the gallery or go to the studio and look at it and see what you think. Now it's more they're trusting. That's what I'm finding in transacting and completing sales right now is that people are saying, okay, if you say it's good and I like it visually online, let's go ahead and pull the trigger and buy it. But
that's great.
having that relationship like you do and we both do with the artist and the experience makes a big difference. What do you think about kind of the future of art fairs? I mean, you and I both love to go to them, but what are your thoughts on that?
So I think there were too many art fairs. And I think that one of the things that'll shake out of this will be there will just be less.
Hmm.
A, because there'll be less people willing to go and attend, and B, that will become a financial reality for the fair owners that they aren't all going to survive.
Hmm.
If we go back to, I've been in business now for 42 years.
No.
If I can go back to the financial crises of the 80s and the 90s and 2007 and 8, and this is a completely different one, a financial crisis that has been put about by an unknown pandemic, we will see a shakeout. And weaker, whether they're weaker conceptually or just weaker because they financially,
Hmm.
there will be attrition. There will be
Yeah.
shrinkage. And that will be somewhat of a loss, but also maybe a strength. And so the galleries will be more focused, and maybe they've been stretched too thin with having to go to fair after fair after fair. It's
Yeah, it's
kind
a
of
lot.
exhausting for everybody. But I also think of the wonderful opportunities, I did the Armory show last month, which was just at the beginning of the terror creeping in.
Yep.
And the attendance when I went on the VIP day was a fraction of what it would have been before. You could just look at the aisles and see what the challenges for the art industry and the art world was going to be in fairs. But I also had the opportunity to discover things like a wonderful artist,
Tell
Mehdi
us.
Gadionlu, an Iranian artist who showed these rather these hypnotizing, completely engrossing still paintings of playgrounds and with technicolor, almost nuclear reactive colors, photorealist almost. You actually had to wonder whether they were photographs that had been enhanced, but they weren't, they were paintings. And now I'm thinking about, well, wow, those were empty landscapes. There were no people in them. And it was like talking about the world that was coming, and he didn't even know it was coming.
Yeah.
And they struck me at the time, and they strike me even more today. Or another artist.
Who else do you like?
Who I discovered online at the site Mr. Lunin, Victor Ponomarenko. I'm traveling the world without leaving my home, who's a Russian artist who does almost these mysterious photorealist paintings in en grisaille. And they have a sort of a solitude and a strangeness to them as well. I guess I'm feeling strange. Aren't we all feeling strange? So there you go. But then I also love right now an artist, Lou Fertino. You know, his portraiture and things, which are homoerotic and rather fractured and sort of channel Picasso and Cubism, but are very sensual at the same time. And they're solitary or just two people. So maybe there will be huge, interesting trends to come out of this in what artists will be doing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 6 months to a year, because artists, every artist that I talk to, number one, they're concerned about the rent, paying their studio rent and sales. But the second thing they say is, this quarantine life is something that we're used to as an artist. I mean, they're isolated all the time. And I mean, this is obviously taking it to a big extreme, but it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this in the next 6 months to a year with a lot of these artists. Somebody made a comment, they liked the piece of art behind you.
Oh, yes. So,
who is that?
I had a hard time figuring out where I should sit to be well lit, and I have giant windows and not get blown out completely behind me.
I love your apartment. Yes.
So I sat over here with this dramatic shading on my face, which I think is quite fine. And behind me is a painting
You look great.
By an artist named Jean Lau that it shows with Valerie McKenzie Fine Art in New York. And I knew Jean Lau's work from her papier-mâché books, which are all caustic comments on society. And I had bought those for clients and for myself over the years without ever realizing that she was actually a painter as well. And this, with all these little garden gnomes acting kind of crazy and the 7 dwarfs behind my shoulder, talks about a world based in the reality of Baroque palaces and churches, populated by crazy 7 dwarfs and gnomes. So it talks about another kind of dystopian world, but these people look a little happier.
You love color, and I think would you say that is what you want to be known for, is the color and the energy for your projects?
Energy, definitely. It doesn't always have to have color. A lot of our work actually is more neutrally based, and especially the last few years. And there are projects we did that have featured primarily sort of en grisaille palettes, and even the artwork, like a wonderful project we did on 57th Street that has a foyer filled with beautiful things in black and white and wonderful line drawings by Susie McMurray. And, I like energy. I don't think it has to actually always be based in color. Not that I'm against color.
Okay. Is there one project that you've done over the last 40 years? I can't believe you've been in business 40 years. That really stands out?
Well, I always go back to and it's interesting, this question even has more my answer has more poignance now, was the opportunity we had to do the restoration, redecoration, and renovation of Gracie Mansion
Mm,
in 2002,
incredible.
and that was immediately following 9/11. And it was when our longtime client, Mayor Bloomberg, was elected. And we had the wonderful
Mhm.
opportunity to do this historic preservation project, which was so fascinating.
Amazing.
And it was done in a very short period of time. We began the project at the end of January, and we had to be done by 9/11 on the first
Wow.
year anniversary of the terrorist attacks. So it was successful in many ways because everybody was invested in this proof of our resurgence, of our rebirth, of our
Hmm.
still being vital and functioning. And
Yeah.
so maybe we'll come out of that the same way. Here in New York right now, the sun is coming out over my shoulder after a gray morning. And so spring will come, and
Yeah,
maybe we
absolutely.
come to a better place in the world where we've learned about I'm alone, I know you're alone. Maybe
Yeah.
we're going to learn to come out of this a little calmer, a little more zen from spending more time with ourselves and our thoughts. Maybe the world in general will be more considerate and compassionate of others and our neighbors
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
taking care. I have hope.
How are you reaching out to your friends and family? And obviously we talked about your colleagues, but those that are closest to you, do you have a routine that you're going through each day?
There's ones I worry about more than others, so I do try to reach out to those people every day who are having a hard time and having less optimism about the future.
Hmm.
I certainly am a master texter, and
Yeah.
I'm a good emailer. When I lost,
You're always quick to respond. Every time I text you, you're like,
I'm on it.
you're on it.
What I've lost the gift for in many ways is actually voice conversations on a telephone.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's a skill I've had to relearn, just like cooking. I gave up cooking
Oh
20 years
yeah.
ago or so. I'm back
You
at
have
the
been
stove.
cooking
I
a lot.
really like it. I'm enjoying it again.
Hmm. Well, you have a beautiful kitchen.
Thank
Remember
you.
that countertop? What is can you share a little bit about that? Maybe.
Right. So when I designed my apartment, it's not a cook's kitchen because I really didn't cook. I never had dinner in. I never had lunch in. I never had any meal in. Even breakfast
Yeah,
I had
sure.
to eat out. But now I put it to service. But I designed it with this massive 17-foot long island that's white corian inlaid with gold metallic resin of a
Hmm.
sketch I did, just a line sketch, quick, like, ooh, river, and dots like you threw stones into a lake and watched the rings. So
Yeah.
looking at the Hudson River, that was my interpretation of bringing a bit of the river inside.
Yeah. So what are some other things? There are some, one of an artist on here asked about, again, where do they go to apply for the artist grants?
Well, so there,
You
so
know?
with our organization, the New York Community Trust, we don't take grants from individuals. We take grant requests from organizations that then support their
Okay, got
work,
it.
to support their work. So it's
Got
really
it.
um,
So if
that.
they Google New York Community Trust, then they can find out about that and then,
Well, the trust doesn't support individuals.
okay.
It only supports organizations.
All
So
right.
one would have to do a little more exploratory work on organizations that are supporting artists with specific grants. And I do
Okay.
know that um, that the federal, it's frustrating. I know we haven't had much luck so far, or maybe we finally got through today. The PPP program, the Payroll Protection Program, is open to sole practitioners, to
Hmm.
people who work alone, whether you're a real
Yep,
estate agent or an artist.
that's right.
So it's the paperwork apparently isn't very long. It's trying to get
In line.
in line in the application to a bank. We bank with Citibank. That's a pretty damn big bank. This
Hmm.
program's been up 10 days. We didn't get our spot until today.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking of you, thinking of Caleb and your entire staff and team.
Thank you.
Where's somebody where that you want to go when this has calmed down? Is there a place you want to travel? There are obviously friends and close colleagues that you want to see, but
I definitely started to think about that the other day and thinking, where would I go? And I thought, well, maybe I'll go to Morocco again, to Marrakesh, because that's kind of a
Love
wonderful
Marrakesh.
exotic vacation.
Yeah.
And it's also very relaxing in a way. Sometimes you go to a huge urban center that we go to often, like Paris or London, and you come back exhausted because you run to see everything that you want to see. In Morocco, the pace is a little slower. So
Hmm.
that might be a thought. Maybe a real island vacation. Maybe escape to the Maldives and see
Okay.
what it's like to live on an atoll, because we may all have to do that.
And you may be going to Wyoming for a
And
client
maybe,
project.
yeah, maybe exactly. I encourage them to look online for a property, buy it online, send us the plans. We're working remotely. It could all work out.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time today, your energy. Thank you for your kindness. There were so many comments on your kindness and your generosity,
Oh,
and I couldn't get to all the questions, but one person did say Creative Capital is a good source for information on grants for artists. So any of the artists that need additional information, feel free to message me and I'll help you kind of navigate that.
wonderful. I see that popped up. I can't read that far. You read much better than I.
I'm a little, I think I'm a little closer.
Yeah,
Um,
I would pose.
but stay healthy and well. Keep cooking. We want to follow your stories and see more of your cooking that you're doing as well. And
Thank you,
um,
and thank you for doing this. It's been great. And this is your new future. You're going to have your own channel soon.
well, you know,
Enjoyed all of your chats.
I'm bored and I'm trying to be creative, and you know, it's been fun. So thank you for doing this, and I'll talk to you soon, Jamie.
Okay. Hello to
All right, have
everybody.
a nice weekend.
Thank you.